Okay, now you can do it.
Is it
All right.
moving? I mean, can you tell it's on?
All right, I'm going to call to order the meeting of the River Plantation Municipal Utility District Board of Directors. It is 6:34 p.m. on August 25th of 2022. First item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the meeting of the Board of Directors. Do I have any comments, questions, corrections, or do I have a motion to approve them?
I have no corrections. I'll make a motion that we approve the
I
rest.
object.
Okay.
Okay,
Well, you look at the last page, and I got this from the website. There is nothing about what happened after you came out of executive session. You just closed the meeting. You had two votes, two motions there. They're
We
not-
didn't vote
they're
on
not-
anything.
Yes,
Yeah,
you
we
did.
did.
You voted to
The
have
attorneys
Paul
take action.
Oh, we sure
take
did.
care of
You're
East
right.
Plantation and Tackus.
you're right.
Okay,
And
we
that
did.
is not on there.
Okay. I was thinking we didn't vote. Did we not
You're
vote
right.
before?
Yeah, we didn't know, we voted after
Afterwards?
executive session.
Okay.
So that, we need to make a
Okay.
motion to amend,
Amend.
to add those.
Yep.
Amend the minutes.
I'm gonna tell you, those are the most important, because we don't know what the heck you're talking about during this, executive session.
Okay.
So you really need to make sure that's out there.
Okay. All right, can you get that amended, Davis?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay,
So what's the
Okay.
motion, to approve them as amended?
yeah. Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Oh, wait, who made the motion then?
I did.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion to approve as amended and then a second. Okay. All right, number 2, receive comments from the public. Nobody? Is there
We
anybody in
need
the
a check-in sheet, I guess.
I'm tired today.
This is
Is
like
there anybody
last
on it that said yes?
Yeah,
Okay.
I believe D was the only one that said
Okay.
yes.
See, so makes it easy.
Okay, I wondered if one of the directors could be responsible for putting notice about this meeting on Nextdoor or wherever else you put it. Because here there are 5 of us.
Well, I posted it twice on Nextdoor and on, yes, I did. Posted it on
Yeah, I never
Nextdoor
saw it.
twice and I posted it on Facebook twice.
So you know what is weird about that Nextdoor? I mean, I don't get half the stuff.
I saw it on Nextdoor.
And maybe
Yeah.
some people are missing it too.
Yeah.
Okay, another question. Are you getting your information for the packets late?
About 2 days ago.
About 2
Okay,
days
when-
ago.
2 or 3
When
days
should
ago.
it be on the website? Because I didn't see it till late this afternoon. I thought at least part of it was on Wednesday and then it got filled in.
Most of
It
it,
does come out in phases.
but
Okay,
But
that's,
but what you want to do is when they send out the final packet, it's everything. So that's what they post on the internet, on the website instead of pieces. They
yeah, but,
post the final packet with
yeah, but
everything.
I didn't get to see it till, I mean, I was checking in the morning and the afternoon, didn't really get to see it till after 4. So-
Today?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I sent an email.
No, you can't, huh?
I sent an email to Stephanie Pena, let
Okay,
her know, and she sent it to me. And I guess shortly thereafter, it appeared on the website.
okay, okay. So that may, I don't know why,
Maybe she
that may be a miscommunication or
Maybe she
something.
needs to post it.
Yeah, so, well, that's a Monty thing, so.
Tell you, somebody's got to tell Monty.
Right, I know.
Then you got to send it to him.
We will get that corrected. Okay.
Okay, that's it.
That's it? Okay. Anything else? Okay. All right, number 3, financial and bookkeeping matters. Bookkeeper's report. Anybody have questions on the bookkeeper's report?
I noticed that we had 2 payments to we made 2 payments to somebody. Maybe it was just catching up from the month before, but there was 2 payments.
Well, there's usually 2 payments to some of them.
I had a question about the, a payment to the employee health insurance. Is that?
That's done.
Right.
Should be, it was canceled. That's I'm gonna assume,
Was there,
I was gonna say,
It says
Policy?
October to July, 28,000.
what page are you looking at?
where, oh, that's the whole year.
Okay.
That's what's already been
Okay,
paid.
all right.
Yeah, yeah,
And the same row with payroll and the maintenance.
correct.
and-
That's stuff that's already been paid,
Okay.
yeah.
Then we had, I guess on the backhoe, maintenance on the backhoe, there was a $7,200 charge, but that's for the annual budget, so.
That's a
we get rid
budget
of that.
amount.
If we
That'll be,
did-
there's a bunch of them that are gonna go away.
Right.
That's the only questions I had.
Okay.
Did you find your one that got paid twice? Okay. Okay.
It was late at night.
Okay, all right. So do I have a motion to accept the bookkeeper's report?
I'll make a motion to accept
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right, tax assessor collector's report. We're getting towards the end of the year.
Should we
So.
fully schedule it, so,
Hmm?
Maryland said that to stay or not?
No, that's the tax,
I don't know.
that's the
Yeah, I
tax
was wondering
thing.
if we should address it earlier.
Well, I'm gonna move it up, but
That's what
I'm gonna
I'm-
move it up and I'm gonna move something else up, so, yeah. But let me get there first.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Any questions on the tax assessor collector's report? No? Okay. Motion to accept?
I'll make a motion, we accept the tax collector's report.
Okay, second.
I second.
All in favor? All right, review the investments. It looks like Texas classes, what's paying the interest, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
They are projecting they'll definitely go over 3%.
Oh, cool. Okay, good. All right, any questions on, well, it's gonna go up that much, from 2.2 to
And we,
3?
I thought it was 2.8.
No, it's 2.28.
right, last I saw was 2.83, so,
Oh, wow,
so
okay,
yeah, you may see a difference next month.
okay.
And we're slowly getting some inquiries from other banks regarding investing in CDs. So we're talking to them, letting them know, hey, you're going to need to get those rates up.
Right,
So if Mark Burton is saying that if they can get offer 3.5%,
oh,
he'll be willing to start investing in CDs.
just a little bit, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
As opposed to the Texas fund?
Well,
Or
Or-
any
it's
or-
always,
portion.
and a lot of it depends on where the Texas class accounts are at that point. But it's always good to diversify your funds.
Absolutely.
Right.
So, I think that's part of it, but let's wait and see if those banks, start offering 3.5.
Okay.
But for right now, we don't have to worry about Texas class, we don't have to worry about collateralization,
Right.
so it's good where it's at.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Motion. Accepted.
Oh, I make a motion that we accept the investment package.
Okay. Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, approve the payment of the district's bills.
I didn't see
Any
anything.
questions?
I didn't see anything.
No, I'm kind of liking there's just a small stack.
Yeah.
So, all
Let me
right,
down a little bit.
yeah, okay. Approval of payment of the district's bills.
I make a motion, we accept payment of the district's bills.
Okay. Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I'm gonna delay 3E for a second, and Warren, do you wanna do your thing? We're gonna move you up. Okay,
Yeah, that's fine.
3E may take a while.
Okay. Good evening to you all. You have my report in front of you. Tom and Tim and Julie, you may remember some of this from last year. This report's a little bit different than what it was last year. Carl and Betty, I know you're seeing this for the first time. So on the second page, you have your historical information. On the left is your historical taxable assessed values in your district. On the right are the historical tax rates in your district, okay? And so you can see, and you're not unique in this, there are special districts all around Houston that have seen an incredible amount of growth in their taxable assessed value. This number in the upper left, 204,699,768, represents an increase of over 20% in your district. And this number is the taxable assessed value in your district as of January 1st, 2022. Okay?
That's of all the homes in the district.
All of the
properties.
taxable assessed value.
Could be
Everything in
lots.
your district
Right.
that
Properties,
Yes.
okay.
that is taxable.
That can't change, right? This
Say
year.
again?
That won't change this year.
No, it will, and I can explain why. But, yeah, exactly, Julie. But the point I want to make is that growth you see from last year's 168 to 204 represents the growth from January 1, 2021 to January 1, 2022. So that's the growth in 2021 calendar year, right? Okay, moving to the right side. So I ran all these scenarios before your bond election, and I know that I had some scenarios that involved, that I said, we might need 30 cents. There was one I was looking at where it was 27.6. So I'm pleased to say that even with issuing those two bonds, 25 cents, less than what we had originally thought, only 25 cents will be needed for debt service. And furthermore, the aggregate tax rate is not increasing by 25 cents because you can see that the M&O tax rate is decreasing by 4.5. So in aggregate, the tax rate, even though you're levying a debt service tax rate for the first time in many years, in aggregate, your maintenance and operations, which goes to your general fund, okay? In aggregate, your tax rate's only increasing by a little more than 20 cents. And I'll get into this in a minute, but I want to point out that the 27 cents in maintenance and operations still results in a balanced budget. In fact, there's a small surplus there. So, some districts adopt a deficit for particular reasons, but I think in your case it makes sense to not adopt a deficit and to keep your general fund growing. And 27 cents, I estimate, will achieve that, okay? So there's more detail here on the third page, if you turn to there. In the upper right, you can see those two numbers repeated, 25 cents for debt service, 27 for maintenance and operations, the aggregate of 52. This page is split into three sections. The top section is for your debt service fund and your debt service tax rate. The middle section is for your general fund and your M&O tax rate, and then the bottom section has other calculations. So I am using information from Carol's July report, okay? So you can see your debt service fund balance as of July 28th was $352,293. I actually was getting in touch with BNY Mellon and Carol a couple days ago because you guys are about to make your first debt service payment here in just a couple days, which I know I geek out about this stuff. It's exciting for me. That's going to bring...
It's exciting that we have the money to do it.
Yeah, and let me say, I'm sure all of your bondholders are also looking forward to that, and it's going to be a very positive sign. Let me also make the comment that this debt service fund balance right now, since you haven't collected any debt service taxes yet, is from the capitalized interest that you sold in your bonds. So that's where that comes from. So after making that September 1st payment, your debt service fund balance will decrease to $311,330. Okay, and then here to the left of center, Tom, to your point, these are the two component parts. There's the amount which is already certified, $180,319,398, and then the amount which remains uncertified. I have the number over there. We always take 90% of what remains uncertified, okay? That's kind of an industry standard. It's a conservative assumption. Usually the amount that's under protest, what eventually comes on your rolls as certified, is more than 90%, but I'm showing 90% of that number here. 90% of the amount that remains uncertified in your district is $24,380,370, and so those two together bring us to the $204,699,768.
When's the latest that they'll be certified?
The process, they will issue supplements all year long, okay? Davis will correct me, but I think they even supplement, years past. So, or maybe that's not true, but they'll.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So it'll go on for a while, and you'll have deposit refunds, right? People will overpay on their taxes, or they'll owe a little bit more on their taxes than what they paid. It will be ongoing.
The values that we're using to levy came from the appraisal district in a, you know, in a package, so.
Right. Okay, so 25 cents for debt service will bring into your debt service fund 501,514, which will bring your debt service fund balance up to 813,467. Then below that, you can see a full year of 2023 debt service payments. That's March 1st interest only and September 1st principal and interest, okay? Which will leave your debt service fund balance more or less 12 months in the future, your projected debt service fund balance at $332,257, which is, compared to the following year and what we refer to as the maximum annual debt service, your maximum annual debt service is $515,056. So that is approximately 67 or 65% of those two numbers, okay? This is a good place to start. I think this is a fine place to be. I'm comfortable with where you are. It's approximately a 7.5 month reserve, or right around 7 months. Just to give you some perspective here, the industry standard and what rating agencies will look for is a 12-month reserve. So you're not there yet. You know, we will look to get there slowly over the coming years, try to build up your debt service fund balance. But, you know, for kind of this initial moment when you're levying a debt service tax for the first time, I think being at around 67% is perfectly acceptable, okay? All right, and we can come back and revisit any of this if you like. I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys may have. But I'm going to move on to your general fund and your maintenance tax rate. You all will hear me repeat this every time I give this presentation. My recommendation, and as your financial advisor, applies to the debt service portion of your tax rate, okay? I include this analysis on the M&O tax rate, but it says it in the cover letter and it's repeated right here. Ultimately, maintenance taxes are levied at the discretion of the board of directors, okay? I'm happy to run analysis and scenarios, whatever you guys would like to see, but my official recommendation only applies to the debt service portion of your tax rate. So having said that, taking from Carol your budget, I believe Carol had about approximately, you see this number at the bottom, $534,508 coming into your general fund from maintenance taxes. I estimate at 27 cents that we would bring in just a little bit more than that, at about $541,636. So you would have a small surplus of about $8,700. Okay, so you're in the black, assuming your expenses stay where you budgeted them, right? Okay, at the bottom we have the average homestead value last year and this year. Last year the average homestead value was $181,662. This year it's gone up quite a lot to $206,256. Okay, and so then to the right of that you see last year's tax rate and this year's the tax rate which is in this analysis. So you have last year's average homestead value and last year's tax rate gives you the average tax bill, right? And then this year's average homestead value and the tax rate of 52 cents, and this year's average tax bill. So that's an increase of $498.48, okay? That is the increase from the debt service, primarily from the debt service tax rate, right? The increase in your aggregate tax rate of going up a little bit more than 20 cents, 20.4, all right? Below that are a couple calculations which don't really have much impact this year. You are above the both of the parity tax rate and the rollback tax rate. Okay, and we can talk more about that if you guys have questions. Lastly, this fourth page, this has a lot of the numbers that are on the third page repeated, but just kind of in a different format. So there on the left, you see your debt service fund balance after having made that September 1 payment, $311,330. That's repeated from the third page. To the right of that, you've got your taxable assessed value, $204,699,768. That's repeated from the third page. 25 cents for debt service, repeated from the third page. the amount that will come into your debt service fund, 501,514, repeated from the third page, et cetera, et cetera. And as you move to the right, all the way to the right, you can see kind of the slow pace. You have to remember, this is based off of no growth in taxable assessed value. You know, I mean, we prepare this for illustrative purposes, but it's probably best to just look at the top couple rows. I mean, those are the ones that are really the most impactful. But in any case, if we had a miracle and your taxable assessed value never changed from 204,699,768, which is probably going to change from that next week, but if it never changed from that again for the next many years, you can see that you're in a position where your debt service fund balance would slowly approach the 12-month reserve.
So
yes,
are the
Tim?
calculations made as the years progress? The calculations are still made on the $204 million.
Yeah,
Base.
generally that's a conservative assumption. You know, I was speaking to some other folks earlier, and what I said to them was, you know, here's what I can tell you about your taxable assessed value next year. It's either going to stay the same, or it's going to go up, or it's going to go down. I can say that with certainty. And so, you know, when your taxable assessed value goes up, generally speaking, that will put downward pressure on your tax rate. If your taxable assessed value goes down, that will put upward pressure on your tax rate, right? And the other thing, you know, that I've kind of had in mind, and I'm certainly not trying to call down catastrophes and plagues on us, but I remember setting tax rates in August of 2019, and I'm sure you guys can all remember August of 2019 and March of 2020, right? I remember setting tax rates in August of 2017, you know, a few weeks before. So we just don't know what the future comes. I think the industry standard is to maintain the taxable assessed value with no growth. You know, even if we have a good reason to believe that it would go up, it's more conservative to assume no growth. Not assume that it would go down, but assume no growth. And then, you know, we revisit this every year. So next year, if it's gone up, maybe that puts some downward pressure on the tax rate. We'll see.
Okay.
So this is a two-step process. At this moment, all you're doing is setting a date for your tax rate hearing and setting the tax rate that you will publish in the newspaper. And then next month is the date where you will actually have your tax rate hearing and adopt and levy the tax rate.
So our tax rate hearing is going to be set for September 15th.
Okay.
Because the deadline is September 17th
Uh-huh.
to turn it in. So it's good, we're gonna move our monthly board meeting to the 15th at 6:30 p.m. instead of the following week.
Yeah, that's a Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so it must be due the 16th though. Is it 15th a Thursday?
The deadline is the 16th.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the 15th is a Thursday, so it's due the next day. So, yeah, the 15th, September 15th at 6:30 p.m. Yeah, it's gonna be our regular, we're gonna do the bond rate, or the tax rate, and then we're gonna do the regular meeting after that, so 6:30 p.m.
Okay.
That works for everybody?
Yep.
So if I understand correctly, this is your recommendation, and we have to come up with our tax rate that we're.
My recommendation applies to your debt service tax rate. So I have 25 cents there, okay? What I've included in this analysis is 27 cents for maintenance and operations. And I selected 27 cents because 26 would result in a budget deficit, and actually 26 and a half would result in a budget deficit. So we can go to all kinds of decimal points, but I went with 27
But that's
because
not counting the appreciation of the values of the
Yeah.
property.
Yeah, it is.
It is counting.
well, the average tax bill that you see here is counting the appreciation in the average. Again, that's an average, you know, some folks will have their.
Even though it's actually gonna go down from 31.6.
Exactly.
Correct.
Exactly. Which is why your aggregate tax rate is not going up 25 cents,
Right.
right?
It's actually going up roughly 22.
20 and a half, 20.4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's, correct me if I'm wrong, there's really three different, there's a no new debt, no new revenue.
Mhm.
There's a, God, I can't remember what it is.
There's
It's
different-
There's different
Yeah.
rates you can set, but some of them you have to have an election and you have to have the voters approve it if you go over a certain amount.
Right.
Yeah, so,
Is that a percentage?
Yeah. So you guys have any questions?
Nope.
Because we gotta vote on it next month. So now's your chance to ask questions.
I'll do my best to be here.
Okay.
And you can always, you guys should all have my
Email.
contact info. I mean, don't hesitate, please. This is what I'm
Actually,
here
looks
for.
better than we anticipated.
Yeah.
Well, it does, you know, and I remember saying this in the town hall and other times, you know, I've tried to be conservative in my assumptions. I always, you guys have heard me say this before, I always want to over-deliver and under-promise. And so I'm happy that that doesn't always, it's not always the case, but I'm happy to say it happened here. You know, we were preparing for 30 cents or 27.6. I actually brought the scenario that showed 27.6.
So on average, people's taxes are gonna double,
Well, not quite, but
almost.
yeah.
498 is what I figured when we were at that thing.
Right, at the
We
bond
had
meeting.
all the scenarios at the bond hearing, that's about what it was.
Mhm.
It's about what I thought.
Yeah.
So actually, less than what we advertised. So we-
Yeah.
We were trying to do it.
Yeah.
They gotta go
Right.
by numbers.
Nobody's gonna remember that.
No. No. But-
I do.
Okay?
No.
Yeah, I remember it.
Okay. Davis, do you have anything you want to add in here?
Yes, you do need to vote to approve the resolution which calls the public hearing on September 15th.
Okay.
And exactly as Lauren said, today you propose the rate, you call the hearing, and then at your next meeting, you will hold the hearing as part of your regular meeting, and then consider the adoption of the tax rate.
Okay. So somebody want to make a resolution to approve the meeting on September 15th for the tax rate hearing?
I make a motion that we
Set the tax rate hearing.
set the tax rate hearing for September 15th
Okay. I have a
And
second.
to adopt the resolution.
Yeah,
to adopt the resolution.
A second.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, Lauren.
Yeah, thank you.
Good
Thank you,
news.
Lauren.
That's good news for us. Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Is there anything else we need to do on that, truth in taxation? Or is that, are we good with that on the agenda?
The resolution also designates the district status, which is based on remaining developable acreage. Worth noting that there is a change from the prior year because of the court ruling, the Court of Appeals determination that the golf course property is developable.
So now we are a developing district instead of a developed district.
Why is that?
Because Charleston can be built on, based on the court ruling with the CIA. So, yeah.
That's right. The criteria is essentially 95 development of 95% of the developable acreage in the district. And now that the court has determined that that acreage is developable, we must consider it as developable for other legal purposes, including this one.
But we as a district cannot sell it to be developed. Yeah, it's going to be designated as a park for, yeah. Yes. It's just the way they designate it, yeah.
So what
I was about to have a
dollar
question.
difference does that make?
Huh?
What dollar difference does that make, the new designation? Does that make any real difference?
We can charge a higher tax rate if we need to.
But we don't want to.
Right. Go ahead, Davis.
I can't say how the appraisal district might treat it for valuation purposes. I will say that I think in the open market it would certainly be valued higher were it not restricted against development than if it were restricted against development.
Well, what difference does that make if we're not gonna develop it?
Oh, developed versus developing.
Yes.
The difference is that if you are a developing district and to a petition from the taxpayers that would require you to hold an election to reduce your tax rate to that 8% cap. Now, a successful election cannot reduce your debt service rate. It can only reduce your maintenance and operations rate. And in this case, you don't have any exposure because you have not increased your maintenance and operations rate. You've actually reduced it, and you are below that 8% cap. If you were a developed district, you are subject to a 3.5% cap, and after which you are required to hold an election. And it can put districts like yourselves that have a significant capital needs for repairs and things like that in a difficult position, because it is exactly the same situation. You would be required to hold an election even though only the maintenance and operations portion of your tax rate would be subject to the results of that election. Does that make sense?
Yep. So it's almost advantageous to be developing.
They certainly have more flexibility.
It is that administrative requirement.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
And also, I'll just remind everyone, I mean, the unique part about this is that, we were in front of the voters with this information, tax rate projections, so recently, and I think did a good job of getting all the information out there. So hopefully, everyone was quite clear in the voting process. So, and we did have a good turnout in both elections. So.
Okay.
All right, you good?
Vote on the resolution?
I thought we were.
That's what I was asking, if we did.
I thought we did.
Yep.
Okay. 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 I'm gonna go back to 3E on the, because that is kind of my thing here. So, and then I'm gonna have to keep the, kind of jump in if anybody has questions. So 3E, it was brought to my attention, actually I started this back in 2020, and I kept trying to bring it to people's attention that I believe some of the meters were being misread, and maybe not misread, but maybe miscalculated on the usage. And I was always assured that that was not the case. Well, lo and behold, 2 months ago, a customer got a bill that was significantly higher than their normal bill, and just so happened that they had the problem that I had been trying to bring to everyone's attention. And so there are, we're looking at the number of meters. We don't know exactly how many right now, but it could be as many as 30 meters that have only been paying 10% of what they should have been paying for their water usage. Yeah. So we can, from what I understand from Davis, and we have a couple of options. And what I want you to understand is the only reason I'm bringing this out is because we can't look at this personally. We have to look at it as if, what would the taxpayers want us to do? Okay? We can go back 12 months and do a catch-up. We can let it go and just let them pay at their current usage from now on. Or we can work out some kind of intermediary process. And that's...
Can we start now with the new rate and not go
They
back?
have started, they did start when MOC started reading the meters. They started getting it correct, which is why I started getting phone calls on why did my bill go up X number of times, what it normally is. And then when we started looking at it, was because some meters have 2 fixed zeros at the end, some have 3 fixed zeros at the end. And I actually have pictures, I can show you the meters. And apparently someone didn't know how to add and subtract.
So the meters aren't wrong, they were just read wrong.
They were just read wrong
They were read wrong by our people.
by our people.
For several years.
Probably since those meters have been put in.
I would think that this citizens we represent would not want us to go back and charge someone for a mistake that we made as a municipal utility district.
I'm bringing it up,
Yeah.
but we need to discuss it,
But
so.
going forward, it has to be corrected.
So, we've got an audience of the members of the public. Does anybody have an opinion? Go ahead, Robert.
I have a question. You're looking at underbilling, but therefore there's more water
Yeah,
usage than what's been reported.
that's correct.
Okay,
By 10,
And
but
we
they
have-
paid about 10% of what they should have paid.
okay. So do we know the total gallons?
No, because we
That's
don't
been
know.
moved.
We don't know which meters it was. I only know of 3 of them
The
because those are
observation,
the 3 I looked at.
my thoughts were that if you look at our production versus our billing, and obviously there's always some outage because of water
Right.
loss or fire hydrants used,
Or
even
people only get billed 10%
or
of what
maybe
they
putting
use.
out a fire on somebody's house. That came to mind. Who pays the water bill for that? You know, and who meters the, you don't meter a fire hydrant when you have water putting out a fire. So there's gonna be a percentage difference. And so why I was thinking that number would be important. How close are we to the norm for the percentage that we are out?
We'll have to find out which meter. I don't even know which meters it is. Like I said, I only know
And
3 of them.
He's talking about in general.
Yeah, in
Right.
general.
And we
It's
talked
just-
about that last meeting, and we were
Yeah.
within the norm.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and I would just, so last month was our first go at reading the meters and having well production data, so we can actually calculate what we would call accountability. And so, we're taking, there's kind of 3 different ways to look at it. There's a hard number of the amount of water that's put into the system. There's a hard number, which is the sum of gallons billed. So we take, we read all the meters, you add them together, that's water that's been accounted for. You compare those 2 numbers, that's a hard number, and what we would call pump versus billed. And then in addition to that, we're going to account for what we think, there's some estimation calculation as to we're out flushing dead end main, we're flushing hydrants, we fix this leak, we fix that leak, so on and so forth. And so we'll try to take, make some sort of estimation as to what kind of water that is. We would add that to essentially the same bucket of water that would hold the gallons billed, and we would compare that again to total gallons produced or put into the system, and that's what we're going to call pump versus accounted for. So last month, you were just shy of 90%. So, I mean, typically speaking, we would like you to be, 93, 94%, somewhere in there. And so and some of that was old reads, right? Current month and then this previous billing period, we had tons of leaks. I'm showing 12 in my report, but I mean, we had all sorts of water loss. But based upon well production and gallons billed, you're at 92% pump versus billed this period, 95% pump versus accounted for. I don't know enough yet to tell you that that's going to be the new norm. I mean, we're 2 months in, but we're at least moving in the right direction.
And you probably can't go back, or could you go back and determine that? I mean, I don't know how you would, like, say, a year ago? I mean, how could you determine
Well,
those?
we
To what point, though, what would we solve by doing that?
I don't know how you would do it, You
Well,
wouldn't
we
have
wouldn't
those
be able to
numbers.
go
Numbers.
back and get the unaccounted for, but we could get the billing amounts and get them straight, because all we have to do is move it over
Yeah.
1 decimal place for the
Yeah.
gallons. Because that's exactly what it was.
Yeah,
It was,
that's true.
the person that brought it to my attention was like, I'm always billed for about 3,000 gallons. This month I got billed for 30,000 gallons. Well,
Yeah,
Well, for something that's clearly our mistake in doing the meter, I don't think it's good to go back and penalize the accounts for something that we did. They didn't know. They've already
Well,
did.
I
they
have
know
a
how to do it.
question though. I mean, if I'm paying $60 a month and my bill's only $6, I mean, wouldn't I be curious?
well, you would be paying a minimum, well, for the water, yeah, but you always had that minimum because of sewer and that, so.
But I see what you're saying too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
If-
wouldn't
if-
you look at that and think, I'm really on the good side here and somebody's
Yeah,
gonna screw me?
and That was kind of my question to the person that brought it to my attention. It was like, come on, let's get real. You really think your water usage is, because, and I'm not gonna tell you, it was a commercial thing. And I was like, really, you really think your water usage is 3,000 gallons a month? When you're open 7 days a week and you have the public in here and
Well, I
let's
mean,
get
I
real.
would think
Most
certainly,
houses are more than that.
you know, commercial would know, because they know what they're using. I
But if
mean,
they've been billed the same things for several years, they think, well, this is what we've always billed.
Right.
And
Right.
so, you know, this.
Yeah, I wouldn't
And,
look at
and
it
I
that
will tell you,
closely.
the person that brought it to my attention actually had questioned it several times. Now, whether the other accounts had ever questioned it, I don't know, but that person had questioned it several times in the past.
How much
So-
money are we talking about?
For 30,000, yeah. More or less.
My point in looking at the production versus the bill is how close is a district to being whole based on what the percentage allowance for
I mean,
loss, you know?
it
Are we
may-
that close to where we really haven't lost that much money or not?
I mean,
And there's one lady on the corner that came around to me, she was really talking a lot about her water deal. She said, I only water my yard once a week. And so and she's a single lady, her husband passed away, and she said this bill's $185.
So you want me to tell you how you can look at it? Go out and see how many fixed zeros she's got on her meter.
Yeah.
That's how I figured it out.
Okay.
Go look at it. If it's got 2, it was red, right? Right? If it's got 3, it was red wrong.
How much
Right,
would
they could do it.
30,000 gallons end up more or less being?
30,000 gallons
Yeah.
would be, what's our rate? It's
For that-
27
individual.
cents, 28 cents. What's our rate for 30,000?
Depends on if it's a 3/4 or 1 inch.
Yeah. So it's like $3, $3.55 a gallon, so
Per thousand.
per thousand, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
30
you're looking at.
So that's $100.
Yeah. Times 30,
plus the sewer.
yeah. Well, yeah, but you're getting charged for the sewer anyway, so,
So it's actually pretty substantial when you,
times
Yeah.
12 months.
Oh, yeah, let's just go forward. There's people in here with their budget
yeah, I
and
don't-
seniors,
I don't think we
they
can go
can't.
back on people when it wasn't their
No.
fault.
yeah.
And there's enough older people here that cause a hardship on a lot of people.
We'll go after the other board until they're paid.
Okay.
We'll add it
so-
to the list.
All right, so I'm gonna ask that someone make a motion on what we wanna do. And we vote on it, so that so that Keith and them know what to do, and we know what to do. As far as, do we go back, do we not go back, do we just go forward?
Yeah.
I need somebody to make a motion and to vote, we need to vote on it.
Well, he's gonna be going from now on, reading it
Correct.
right.
That's
From
correct.
Correct.
now on, he'll be
Correct.
right,
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. But I need it on the record, what we've decided to do about the past.
Mhm.
So I make a motion that we bill going forward as the meter is read at the time and do not go back to charge for misreading meters.
Thank you.
I second.
I've got a question about that. So what do you do about the bill that's sitting on the table right now?
It's
The
read
invoice.
correctly.
No, one for $185?
It's read correctly.
Yes.
That's what it's
Started,
gonna
when
be.
they started reading
No.
them last month, they were read correctly.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
pay
they were,
it, don't worry
I'm
about
not
it.
talking about my bill, I'm talking about this person here and anybody else who's got a $185 bill. Yeah, it was corrected, but then based on their usage pattern, they probably only use 6,000 gallons, so you're adjusting it based
They
on
didn't
the.
catch up though.
Well, we didn't catch up. We
know.
just used from the month before to the current month.
I'm trying to say,
That means
It
that they
didn't,
do-
it didn't work
I
out.
understand going forward, but
Right.
the person that has that bill right now, they gonna pay it or not?
Yes,
Yeah.
because it was read and calculated correctly.
How many gallons would they have had to use $185 worth?
Well,
That's
this,
what I think.
I know this person doesn't, because I drive by the house.
Well,
That would probably be 40,000 gallons, because you add the sewer
If
to
I
it.
can make a recommendation, if you don't mind, I can get with you after the meeting, I can get you the address, I can get the address from you, I'll
Yeah,
go
right.
by, our staff go by, we can look at the leak, if there's a leak, if there's an error, we'll be more than happy to make the credit, but instead of talking Hypothetical,
Individual.
let me get with you, I'll look at the account.
That's what we do, yeah, I
It
think we need to look
could
at
be a
it.
major leak here too, because
Right.
I know what mine was. Mine went up a third more than what it normally is, and I'm still paying less than 100.
Yeah.
And I'm paying the same rate. So that sounds to me like there's either a leak there or something.
Yeah, I don't have enough for leaks, but I think that's what, this is another person, not me, with this.
I'm more than
I'm
happy
just
to.
throwing that out as an example.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we have.
More than happy to go
It
back.
doesn't take
Okay,
a big
we got a
leak
motion
to
made,
get
second.
Motion and second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all right, we're just going forward.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Huh?
Yeah, we can't really fault somebody else for our mistake.
Operators report. Go ahead, Keith.
All righty, good evening. Should have a copy of our report in front of you. Got a couple extras if anybody care to see it. For the month of July, she had 962 connections. One of those being vacant received 78,568. 78,568.54 in revenue. For the billing period, I'm sorry, just beneath that, just the summary of gallons billed based upon user type. So in total, 15,532,000 gallons. Beneath that's the summary of the billing period, June 23rd to July 21st. Total gallons produced from well 2 and well 3, total 16,891. Again, billed out to 15,532, accounted for 430,000 gallons based upon the leaks and flushings as we discussed previously. So the pumpers is accounted for 95%. We have 12 leaks, again, as I mentioned previously, that were repaired in the district because we took the 5 bacteriological samples. Those results were good. Beneath that is a summary of your wastewater treatment plant operations for the month of July. Everything's in compliance there, currently at 25% of the permitted capacity. Again, that permitted capacity is a little bit of a skewed number just because there's a lot of water that never leaves the contact chamber and is sent back to the golf course. If you guys also recall, last month there was discussions about that meter, how the gears were essentially worn raw. That meter has since been replaced. So for the calendar month of July, we metered 2.858 million gallons that was of reuse that was sent back to the golf course.
Is that all of everything that's produced from the sewer plant?
No, sir. I mean, that 147,233 up here that I'm telling you is your average daily flow.
Okay.
I mean, that indicates that there's some water that is being treated and flowing out of the contact chamber, not being pulled back to the golf course.
And again, that means going out to the river?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and why is that?
It's gotta go somewhere.
Yeah, I mean,
But I look at the golf course and the lake is almost empty there.
if the golf course lakes calls for water and they're, if they draw it out of the if it's there, I mean, I can tell you that in large part, there, half the time you walk on the contact chamber, it's significantly beneath that V-notch where the water would leave the contact chamber. I don't hold any controls as to when I give them water, when I don't. We're just gonna treat the wastewater. We're gonna make sure that it meets permit going out. And if they wanna take it, they take it, and if they don't, we send it to the river.
So they have to turn the pump on to take it.
My understanding is that it's a float that
We
controls.
have 2 pumps up there.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
So they're looking at the level of the pond and based upon that level, they're gonna say, send me water or don't.
So they could increase the level of the ponds if they wanted to.
I mean, I would certainly think so. Again, I've haven't done a whole bunch of homework as to that controls and how that's all set up. I mean, we want to make sure, if I'm them, I want to make sure that I'm not outpacing flow, because that's going to create some issues on their end as well. But
Yeah, and Paul, I think, do you want to chime in with what the agreement is, that once it leaves it's up to them what they do with it, correct? Once it leaves the wastewater treatment plant, that,
Once it leaves your discharge point, it's basically no longer your water, and they're entitled to use all of it.
So it can't be
they
shared.
determine.
And as an added note, me and Paul were talking that the TCQ actually requires public parks to fall under a type 1 reuse, and golf courses fall under a type 2 reuse. So a brand new non-potable water treatment process would have to be implemented with filters and such to be able to use it on a public park versus a.
So it's more stringent as type 1?
That's correct, yes. They view public parks being accessed by the public 24/7 without restrictions versus a golf course that's supposed to be operated only during the
Actually,
day.
that makes no sense. There's probably 100 more people per
Oh, yeah.
on the golf course than there is on the park.
Makes no sense because there's no difference.
Yeah.
It's grass.
There's grass, and the guys out there licking their ball.
Yeah.
I'm just
That didn't sound right.
I'm just telling you the
That's not what I
state.
meant to say.
Yeah.
So,
And that's enough.
what I'm trying to find out is, how much water is the golf course not taking? Do you know that, or is that something that's under your control?
I can look at our log sheet, and, I mean, there's gonna be some days where little to none leaves the plant, there's gonna be some, I mean, but for the calendar month of July, I'm telling you that on average, based upon the total number of gallons that flowed out of that plant, the average of it is 147,000 gallons a day.
Okay.
Right, and so, just to add to that, so again, the issue is, it's basically, the way the agreement is written, it's no longer this district's water, once it leaves your pipe, basically, and so the golf course has the right to use any or all of it, and basically, we don't have a right to use it because of that. So if we wanted to use it, and I think there's an item on the agenda here in a few minutes that may address some of this, but if we wanted to use it, we would have to essentially get the golf course's permission and perhaps negotiate a different division with them.
To use our water.
Not our
Yes,
water.
because that was, that was the agreement was made because, I can't exactly say why it was done, but yeah, it's our water, but we give it to them as part of this ability to discharge. Something has to happen with the water, right? And the golf course wants to keep the water because it helps them in their operations. And so we made an agreement that they could have essentially control over it once we discharge it.
It's worth noting for some historical perspective, and I certainly can't speak to the minds of the board of directors at the time that this agreement was entered into. But for a long time, remember those credits were generated through water reuse. There was an agreement that they would be used for the mutual benefit of RPMUD and the golf course. And so there was a mutual incentive for as much of that water that could be used to be used, because the more that was used, the more credits would be generated. So.
So, am I wrong in my assumption that the more water it's put on the golf course, the more water ends up in our wells? Maybe that's an engineering question.
No.
That has nothing to do with the aquifer?
You know what, he's wrong or no, he's not?
I mean, it'll get to the aquifer in 50 years, but it's not necessarily gonna be there tomorrow.
No, but
It's not making a drastic difference versus surface water or rain and things like that. This isn't really the recharge zone for the aquifer that's further up, on the other side of Conroe. And so typically your recharge zone starts up top and works its way in a parallel path. The water moves still downhill even as it enters the ground. And so if your water was entering the ground, it wouldn't be entering until under Galveston or down further.
Somebody else.
so we're filling someone else's aquifer.
Well, it's the same aquifer, but in essence, where the water actually penetrates into the ground is further down.
I don't get it. It's like, sorry to interrupt, but are they saying that, like, we got a drought now, so there's less water? So like, the golf course could use all the water and RP doesn't get anything?
The treated water. It's the treated water out of
It's
the
the bad
wastewater
water.
treatment.
Okay,
It's
so
not,
there's
it's not
for
drinking
use or
water.
consumption by anyone.
It's not.
Oh,
And
okay.
it doesn't even meet the standards to be used on like a park. It's
Right.
literally like the lowest level possible. And Davis is right on that. The reason for all to go to the golf course is that was the only way we could generate all of those credits. And by doing that, we basically generated the maximum amount of credits you could possibly get with Lone Star. And they do exist. The credits are out there and they're in the name of the golf course right now.
Is the discharge where it ends up, is it in the pond?
There
Where it
are,
goes to? That's on
my
the-
understanding is there are several locations where it can be turned on, turned off, and it goes different directions.
I didn't know if the pond is a holding tank for them to pull it
That
from
I
there,
don't know.
which is on Charleston Park, right?
No, not that
The
pond.
main pond right in
It's-
front of the clubhouse.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There,
Yeah.
you can see the water coming into it.
Yeah.
You know, there's a pipe that feeds it.
Yeah, the pond on Charleston is, it's, yeah,
It's on.
regular
the-
water pond or rainwater. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
There's no more credits being generated, correct?
No.
No, that's over with now, but if I could just say something, these are all great questions. At the time of the contract being credited, the credits were important. It wasn't until after the contract that the voters of Montgomery County decided to turn over the board at Lone Star, and Lone Star actually withdrew all of those requirements. So it's really the agreement doesn't kind of match with what we would do today, but it's the agreement we struck based on the circumstances at the time.
So are you saying that we couldn't, if we wanted to set up our own discharge just to feed our own, use what we wanted? Assuming we could meet the criteria.
No, we would not without breaching our current agreement. The agreement, it basically, I'll use a fancy word here, entitles the golf course to take all of the water. Now, if we talk to Priestler and his folks and they say, we don't need it all, we could amend the agreement and, keep a third of it, and you could see, whatever we would negotiate, but it would require an amendment to the contract to do anything like that.
It's also worth pointing out that it would require a tier 1 permit, almost certainly some additional treatment facilities to be able to treat that wastewater to a tier 1 level. It's common for a discharge permit, those criteria to be consistent with tier 2, but the tier 1 generally requires additional treatment. And then you'd also have to have, the piping system and all that kind of stuff. So there are some permitting and improvements that would certainly be required to use that water in addition to addressing the agreement as Paul discussed.
Yeah, we understand that. The question was, could it be done if we wanted to?
What's the cost of obtaining the permit, just the permit alone?
That's a Taylor question,
Yeah.
I think. I know it's not a Paul Raddick question, sorry.
Obtaining the permit is not, the paperwork for the permit is not the difficult. You have to put in the equipment
Right.
to obtain the permit and prove that this is what you're going to design and put in place. And so the permit itself is really just like a wastewater treatment facility permit. It renews every so often. You may spend $10,000 or $15,000 renewing the permit. You probably spend $30,000 at the beginning getting the permit because of the additional testing and requirements. And then typically with a tier 1 style reuse system, it's going to cause filtration systems, storage tanks, and things like that to be able to build up pressure to that. And then as Davis mentioned, the piping system, you got to put purple pipe in the ground. You need to run it to if you were going to run it up to another pond.
So basically, we'd have to start over,
Correct.
pretty much.
Correct.
You have millions.
I wouldn't say millions, but $1 million would not be too high.
Yeah, I think the rain did us good.
Yes, you get pretty great.
2 days of rain.
It may be worthwhile to do more rain here.
Fantastic.
Agreed.
Like took a big paint
You don't
brush.
typically see purple pipe systems on a wastewater plant with 150,000 gallons of effluent flow a day. Generally, you see those purple pipe systems on larger plants that are producing a lot more, usable water.
Right, and the only other thing I'll add is just another reason for the agreement being this way. At the time of the agreement, Charleston was part of the golf course. So really, all of that water was needed, and it wasn't until the board, decided to acquire the course and make it into a park that it really sort of changed. It probably changed how much water the golf course, as it sits today, needs. But we would have to go back and do all of this other stuff to make any good of it.
Would it be any cheaper just to use regular water, put in a sprinkler system instead of using the fluid water? And not do anything but just put the sprinkler system out there and use our own water for that?
Well, there's gotta be a sprinkler system.
Well, there are there is piping.
Yeah.
But now whether you I guess my question would be, could you use the same pipes that you used when the effluent was going through it, or do you have to re-pipe it? Are those pipes contaminated? If the
Don't even bring that up.
question I shouldn't have asked.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I don't, you know, wanna,
Surely you could clean
I
them.
think if you're wanting to irrigate that area, I mean, try to reuse what was once a golf course irrigation system. I mean, to me, you're looking at large volume, you're looking at, I mean, those heads are not your typical head.
right.
I mean, not to say that it couldn't be done, I would think that
Still substantial cost.
you'd have money better spent if you go out and start over, to be honest.
Yeah, because the golf course is not probably pumping at a 60 PSI, which is what your well's getting, and so, I would not recommend using those pipes to begin with. And then two, if you were gonna do it on using groundwater, you would want to very localize specific areas that you wanted to water, and not water the entirety. Maybe focusing on trees or something like that, and be very limited on when you use it, because you're gonna use a lot of water really fast.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at drip irrigation, that'd be an alternative.
Forget drip.
Okay.
Great.
All right, beneath that, last month there was a comment about, providing just kind of a summary as to the number of customers that we used in excess of certain amounts.
Oh, yeah.
So the number of customers that use 30 to 50,000 gallons was 96. The number of customers that use in excess of 50,000 gallons was 27.
27.
Are those commercial accounts?
That's across the board, residential, commercial.
Residential and
It
commercial.
used to be.
Well, but let's wait and see how many of them are
More than 50,000?
in the 30.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah,
wait and
I prefer
see.
residential.
Yeah.
But
Not
let's,
necessarily.
Really?
let's wait and see how many of them are in that 30,
Next,
that's, yeah,
but after it's, now that it's caught up, now that we're reading it right,
yeah.
that'll probably change.
How many of those meters are the meters that are,
Yeah.
that were being misread?
Yeah, because we didn't have near 27 before.
No, but we also, when you're only paying for, when you're only showing you got billed for 10%,
You said there were about 30 of them,
there
so
was
that would
30
make
meters.
sense.
Thanks, Lauren.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, yep, they're about 30 meters.
Extra copy
So.
of the presentation.
Yeah, okay.
Beneath that's just a summary of your age receivables, pretty good shape there. And then at the bottom there's the graph of your accountability, so again, we should get 95% for your current period. Following 2 pages is the, I'm sorry. 2
Question on
pages.
the graph, do you guys round the billing, or, because I noticed on my bill, 1 month it was like 10,000, the next month it was 15, it wasn't 9,900 or something.
That kind of goes back to what we're discussing. So we read and bill in thousands of gallons, and even your rate structure is around increments of thousands of gallons. So
So you just round it?
yes, I mean, if you use 999 gallons, we would bill you for 0.
Okay, if I use 15.1, and then we'll get probably billed for 15.
You will get billed.
Okay, because I was just looking at that thing, I said, it's almost impossible for me to hit exactly
No,
on that.
Yeah.
we read in thousands of gallons. There's certain digits that are reading in hundreds of gallons of increments.
Okay, really,
Uh,
just curiosity.
Sure, yep. And then the final 2 pages is your DMR, which is again just a report that's submitted to the state on your behalf. For your question, again, kind of the most important column being the third from the right, number of excursions or violations. We run down the list, you see that there's zeros, that's all good, means that the plant's in compliance, no issues. There's a note on the bottom of the second page, it's really just a note, whenever you input this data into the web portal, the units that were used for E. coli was different than what it was previously. It's not an issue, but it's just, that's the reason that you see it. The last item that I wanted to briefly mention, I know that we've had some discussion in at least last month with regards to delinquent accounts. Obviously, we're 2 months into the transition. I talked to Julie, so we had ran a list. There was roughly 86 accounts that had not made payment. Their accounts were technically past due. Total dollars tied to that was like $16,000. We sent out just kind of a courtesy door tag. We didn't bill them for the notice, but we just sent them a kind of a courtesy notice of, hey, there's a new operator. Here's who you need to be calling. here's what you owe, so on and so forth. So as of today, that list has dwindled down to 28 accounts. Total dollars is right at 6,000. My intention is, again, to provide notice, and then next month I'll bring a list that you guys would approve for termination, and then kind of from there forward, we'll just do business as usual for your regular. So we're certainly moving in the right direction. I mean, this is all very, very normal, whenever you do this type of transition, so I'm not alarmed by any of that, but again, just wanted to bring you guys up to speed.
So we had 87 people at one point, and then it's dwindled down to 28 now.
We had 87 early August. I mean, and then we did the notice a couple of weeks ago.
So 60 people paid up.
Yes, sir.
And, okay.
What is your cutoff point for when you shut off the water?
I mean, ultimately, we're gonna follow your rate order, but I mean, typically, the customer's gonna have roughly 60 days of service. And then we'll provide you notice, you'll receive a notice on your bill, you'll receive a door tag. If you don't respond, we'll terminate.
And do you lock it when you do that, or do you just turn it off?
Typically, we don't lock it. We turn it off at the curb stop. I mean, if we begin to see that there's widespread issues of folks turning on their service, then we can start locking them. Typically, we don't lock it until we find out that somebody restored their own service. We'll lock the meter, we'll pull it. But in most cases, it's not necessary. You turn it off at the valve, and folks are going to call you, they're going to make the payment, we're going to turn it back on. But like I said, if we start seeing issues, which I don't anticipate, but if we start seeing issues with a bunch of folks turning their own water on, we can start locking it.
Most of them got turned back on the same day when we were doing it before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's ours.
Yeah. They don't like taking baths with water.
You're right. It's tough. But that's all I had, unless you have any questions for me.
Thanks, sir.
Thanks, Steve.
You did a good job with all that stuff we had last month. Water breaks everywhere.
Ready?
Yep.
If anybody needs my engineering report, there's a big stack of them back there when you walk in. Starting with the design project, finally got FEMA to approve the transfer.
Get a motion to approve the operator's report?
Oh, okay. Can I get a motion to approve the operator's report?
I'll make a motion that we approve the operator's report.
Do I have a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, sorry.
Sorry.
Perfectly fine. So FEMA's approved the transfer. I'm now an agent of the district. I'm going through all the old information, trying to update it, fix things, updates and filings that were required to extend the data, but everything is getting in order. And we'll have that ready to go once the D-silt's finished to kind of start putting towards that FEMA grant and seeing what exactly we get back. I know there's been a floated number of 200,000+. Based on our readings of that, it's really just kind of a submittal process of what work they'll approve and not approve. So the original way back when work was only about 237,000 that they were going to approve. Hopefully we can get more approved, but that's a promise like I'm not willing to make at this moment. But
So when is anything going to start on funding that?
next item is the East Concrete D-silt. I took those bids today. I was actually pleasantly surprised. The low bidder was $170,529, and that is the third from last page. Is my recommendation of award. I would ask the board make a motion pending my review of the company's credentials. I haven't worked directly with this company, but it shouldn't be a big deal. It's a pretty straightforward job. We did our best to estimate the silt removal and the spread and compact of the amount that we were going to do. It potentially could be more than that, but that is also a great price for removing it. You can kind of see across the board that they're also the cheapest in that, which means they did an honest bid. Sometimes when you do these bids, contractors will try to take advantage of you and say, oh, I think they way underbid this amount, and they'll make that bid $30, but they'll lose money somewhere else to be the low bidder. None of that seems to be, we call that an unweighted bid. We normally throw it out, but everything looks straightforward here. That's just got to give you some information to be comfortable with.
And with the bid tabs and the result of the RFQ, when would they start?
So they're ready to start as soon as possible. So we will fast track contracts to get them as soon as possible, so that we'll have them ready for y'all to sign on 9/15, since you guys are meeting mid that week. And so as soon as they're signed, we'll already do our pre-construction meetings, meet with the contractor and everything like that to get them started at the latest October 1st.
So roughly October 1st, we're gonna start seeing some action.
That's correct.
Great.
Is there any way to
So
accelerate
it's-
that?
That's as accelerated, I mean, unless we were able to create the contracts and get y'all to sign them, get Julie to sign them prior to the meeting, but since you're meeting at 9:15, the contractor will have to get all his crews ready to go, manage equipment and things like that, but they were itching at the bit to go. So I think they'll start relatively, possibly the 19th, that Monday, after we get contracts signed.
So is it calendar days, is that the number of days they expect it to take?
That's correct.
Taylor, you and I have discussed the emergency condition out there, but can you just confirm that you agree that this work is necessary?
Yeah, and we touched base a little bit at the last meeting, that this is an emergency condition in which this ditch has been poorly maintained, it needs to be desilted, it was left for a long period of time, and it's blocking the flow of rain, as it's supposedly supposed to function. And so we're considering an emergency situation in which, you know, we can authorize as the managing board of that stuff between you guys and East Plantation to authorize an emergency fix to a solution to the problem.
Good.
So can I ask?
Put together a notice, I'm sorry, Julie.
No, go ahead.
We do need to provide notice to East Plantation, and I think we should do that, you know, to be good partners as soon as possible. So now that we obviously got the bids today, so if we could get a letter together that describes the scope of work, the need for the work, and the cost associated with the work, and get that over to them, I think that would be a good thing to do sooner rather than later.
Okay. Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
And Davis, you can chime in too, either one of you. Why would we not go with bid number 2, Champions, when they're gonna come in 30 days ahead of schedule, the other ones? For $10,000 more, $11,000 more, but they're gonna come in 30 days quicker?
Certainly, that is a reason that a bid can be rolled, it's because of days of performance. Champions is a bigger company, I've worked with them a lot. I don't know, I haven't touched base with them as to when they could start. So,
Okay.
I know that the contractor, number one, can start as soon as possible. Sometimes with bigger companies, that 30 days is great, but it may be 30 days before they can start. I certainly can check on that for you guys and see where they're at. I would have no problem with that, and maybe adjusting the recommendation. I just, like I said, I got bids today, so I called the number one guy, got his input to see where he was at, and that's where I'm at.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just thinking if we can get it done sooner, but if they can't start, like you're saying, then, I mean, 30 days is a long time.
So it would have been a disaster had we got more rain here now.
If we had gotten the rain.
I know you've probably seen, but there's several places in that ditch that have trees that are 12, 15 foot tall.
Yeah, and that's
And
why.
so if those were to wash out, when they got down here to this bridge, it would just go down and then it would back up.
But we've had instances where those bridges get taken out anyway.
That's why we have a clear.
Under circumstances, I don't think it would be reasonable for you to authorize award to the low bidder and to authorize execution of the contracts, so that Taylor can, you know, we can just see how quickly we can get them together to try and get notice to proceed out and get the contractor started.
A couple of questions. One, are they gonna start downstream at the San Jacinto River and work up? Because we don't want them to start upstream,
Right.
clear it all out
And have that problem down there.
downstream.
Yeah.
And the second question is, what are they gonna do with the silt? And are they gonna put it on Charleston Park, or is it gonna leave the neighborhood?
Assume they
What's the
take it
impact gonna be?
Well, we're
on
gonna spread it thin on Charleston Park.
Okay.
So, our estimate roughly is no more than 4 inches on Charleston Park over some low areas, in the front, and they're actually supposed to seed it with grass and everything like that, so it'll be a standard form of grass, growing on it.
Make it
So-
fill in the holes.
I was gonna say,
Right.
well,
Yeah,
What
so-
about along the Stewart Creek?
That
That's
is not us, and
I can
so,
use some, all that washout.
Yeah, that's not us, we can't touch that.
That's another.
Okay. All right, so do y'all wanna, do you wanna approve him moving forward with low bid, or
Can we approve low bid
or the other one
Can we do
on
both?
time?
If they
one
can
is
get,
done in the time
if the
we
number
want.
two can get there quicker, then maybe we can go with number two.
okay.
Is that what
Can,
we're-
can we do that, Davis?
Davis,
Do
can
a
we-
contingent?
Can we phrase that in a way?
That's fine,
Okay.
that's fine,
Yeah.
whichever, I mean, what state law says is that you can award the bidder that's most advantageous to the district, right?
Okay.
And so, you've given that, I think, direction to Taylor, that you want the contractor between the two that can complete the work, the fastest, the soonest, let me say that, between,
Yeah, that's
you
true.
want the earliest date of completion
Yes.
possible. And so I think it is reasonable for y'all to authorize the award to the contractor that Taylor believes will complete the job first. So
I like
I think
that.
that's
I like that.
Yeah. Okay. All right, do I have a motion to approve Taylor to?
I make a motion that we approve Taylor to go ahead and move forward with either number one or number two, whichever, whoever can get it done the quickest.
Soonest.
The soonest, yeah.
I will be on the phone tomorrow.
All right, do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right.
That's great news.
Moving on, water plant number one rehab, I wanted to just follow up from last meeting because there was a question. TCQ letter requires us to monitor and test the well every 5 years in accordance with 246, which is just an unplugged, uncemented well must be shown to be in good standing use. If it's not shown to be in good standing use, then it must be plugged after 5 years.
When is the 5 years up?
When's the test?
That was approved in 2019, I believe, is the letter dated, so we will be required in 2024. And I'll actually add that to my report from now on in that top part for a reminder. Stone Mountain Storm Sewer sinkhole, we received the attached proposal in the amount of $22,220. That was approved by the president per last meeting motion. And I've reached out to Precinct 2's inspector to receive the go-ahead. They're good with the work, the contractor's mobilizing, and so we should see that repair going. I was really happy that's a remove and replace rather than a CIPP. On the 3 contractors that I actually talked to, they all mentioned that CIPPing a CMP line that's rusted out of the bottom typically causes rips in what we call the sock going through, and which was kind of newer information to me, which I just wanted to say that because that will play into repairing storm sewers going forward when we get the televising back from those storm sewers. Just keep that in mind. Sanitary sewer phase 1 rehab, that is a request authorization to advertise and bid. I did put together a cost estimate. The cost estimate for the repairs of doing all of the televising that was done, which was roughly 24,000 linear foot of line. That would be CIPPing, replacing where it needs to be replaced, pipe burstings, obstruction removals, is pretty substantial. It's close to $2 million. On here, if you look at my very last page, I have a breakdown of the Series 2022 bond report with the projects that we've been working on to date. You'll see clean and televised phase 1, phase 2. We're going to net $128,000 back from that project. You know, and then I'm calling a phase 1 cost estimate for the rehab of $800,000, meaning we're going to look at the most severe lines, and that's going to be the number I'm shooting for. It could be a little less, it could be a little more, but that's in the realm of what I'm shooting for. You have budgeted almost $1.5 million, a little under $1.5 million in sanitary rehab, including the manhole rehab. You have, close to $1.75 million. So there's plenty of money to do the emergency stuff, but with what we saw in this past section, there was a lot more remove and replace. You have a lot of sags in your lines holding water. Those cause backups, those cause issues, going forward and things like that. So
I have a question.
yes, sir.
You have on here district share.
Correct.
Who's paying the rest?
East Plantation is required by y'all's agreements for the wastewater treatment facility rehab and the electrical upgrades,
Right.
based on y'all's agreement. So those are where those numbers come from. You're on the hook, so for like rehab phase 1, for instance, the total project cost we have estimated is $615. Y'all's share is $362,850.
Right.
It is not the same situation as you know, under the contract as a maintenance item, right? I mean, we do need to work with East Plantation on those, you know, capital improvements to the plant. My recommendation is to put together a schedule and a budget to share with them so that, you know, both districts can plan for that work. Obviously, it's important to keep the plant operational. And you know, I understand that there are some significant concerns regarding the condition of the electrical components and the ability to keep the plant running and find parts. So.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to start including this as part of my report as well, just because if you'll look on here, I do have the emergency branded road repair and tennis court repair as part of being paid out of the bond funds. And I'm going to talk with Carol about getting that reimbursed.
Okay.
If you look at your budget items, capital funds expenses showed $153,000, which was the actual Brandon Road repair. So I'll work with her on getting that information.
Is Stone Mountain gonna fall under that too?
Stone Mountain will fall under the storm sewer. That's correct. I didn't have that on here yet, but that'll fall under the storm sewer rehab.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. You have been doing televising the sewers, right?
Yes.
Have you found any damage from the drilling that was done for the cables?
We didn't see any drilling. Most of that televising that we got was prior to Tarasco's drilling. This next round of videos will be really where we see it. It's the bigger section of close to 95,000 linear foot of pipe. This was all done more of the northern section prior to the drilling.
I gotta say, at my house, the sewer is running slower. Gotcha. And I don't know what's causing that.
Okay.
So, I'm not gonna get into any specifics or anything, but that email that I forwarded you from Bo from MOC,
Yes.
have they already televised that area?
I'm trying to obtain all of those storm sewer videos right now. That's the ones we're waiting on for the phase 1, and I believe that one was part of it.
Okay.
I will double check that address. I looked at that email.
I think it should have been one of the first areas.
Because their complaint was storm sewer, not necessarily sanitary sewer,
Sewer,
but then there
right.
was information about the sanitary sewer leak. It kind of went all over the place.
Yeah,
So we are looking into that address and trying to figure out what's going on.
okay,
So, yes.
okay.
Moving forward, sanitary sewer clean and televised, I have those contracts here for signatures tonight. And then the next 3 items, the wastewater treatment facility electrical upgrades, this comes as a recommendation based off of what MOC was finding at the plant, that these electrical situation is worse than we intended. Trying to bump those projects up and to begin design. We may hold off. I would request authorization to begin design, but that includes me and Davis putting together letters and notices to East Plantation of what's to come, and us really drilling down the budget on that as well. That will present prior to bid and advertise. And then water plant number 3 electrical upgrades, that is really to put in the new building out there because that building is heavily deteriorated and it's going to continue to cause issues. And then to fix a couple of the smaller things that Keith's team has found. And then water plant number 2 electrical upgrades is actually been kicked forward based off of those findings. And you can see I put that under the water plant number 2 recoding. We can push that off, we'll be okay. And we can go to a water plant number 2 electrical controls. Relatively around the same price. We do a little bit of a deficit switch on that one, but overall, we're still in decent condition.
Does this fall under bond money?
This all falls under bond money, correct. This is just me saying, okay, we intended that to be recoding, we're gonna reallocate it to electrical upgrades. Simple as that.
Gotcha.
We thought we would be able to push the electrical upgrades and be a little more important on the painting. When it comes to the operation of the plant, electrical controls is more important than painting. We thought they were better off based off of the knowledge we knew at the time.
Yes, I agree. Okay.
The construction project is currently underway. We're finishing up those cleaning and televising phase ones as we talked about with the authorization of the phase one rehab. For the storm sewer televised phase one, that construction's is underway. We're waiting on those videos. It's wrapping up. Channel survey and park survey are underway. Should be seeing those in next week. And then storm sewer cleaning televised phase two construction is actually underway. And then the 10-year capital improvements plan, just update as necessary if you guys have some questions. Like I said, I will start including the bond app breakdown just so you guys are tracking all the projects and where that money is coming from. That also is seen on Carol's sheet, but it's a little easier because I'm actually allocating the specific projects to that versus just valuation. So, with that all being said, any other questions?
I mean, where is phase two of the storm sewer televised?
Pretty much what we did for phase one and phase two was use River Plantation Drive as kind of a dividing factor. And so phase two is more in Mosswood, in that area, and a little bit more southern versus phase one, which was more northern area. And that's the same pretty much with the sanitary, but we limited it to more of a northern quadrant because we originally planned to do 3 phases. And so the first phase was north of River Plantation and north of Charleston Park and the golf course, and the phase two is supposed to be east and then west, but we combined east and west into one. Phase two, that's why it's so much more linear foot.
Okay, so you just need us to request you to,
authorize
you to go on the design?
Go on the design, and then advertise a bit of the rehab phase one.
Okay.
Because you moved your guys' meeting up to 9/15, I won't make that date. It'll be in October when I give you those bids.
Okay, all right. So can I get a motion to authorize Vogel to begin the design on the wastewater treatment facility, electrical upgrades, water plant number 3 electrical upgrades, and water plant number 2 electrical upgrades?
I'll make a motion that we authorize Vogler to begin design of the electrical upgrades of the wastewater treatment plant, plant number 3, and plant number 2.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I have a question. I know the engineering, as he finished his report, thinking back about the silt and where it's going to be located. It's in the area between Braxton Bragg and Stewart Creek, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Now that area is low, and it serves as a retention pond when it floods. And therefore, how many cubic yards of silt are you going to take in there and put in there? And say again?
It's going to go down Stewart Creek?
Yeah.
Well, no, you're going to say you're going to plant it. You're going to put seeds in there. You're going to plant it and keep it from going in there. And therefore, you're reducing the size of the retention pond. So, therefore, if you're upstream like myself, there's less water retention down there that can go upstream to flood me. And so I think there needs to be an understanding of the impact on the drainage that's going on there before you take it. That's dumping. Maybe you can take that silt and tell them to take it down the road and sell it to somebody and get some money off of that rather than having an impact there with that location. Plus there's also on the left side as you drive out, I know there's a drainage that takes water from the groundwater table, and it was forever moving across there. Nobody said we got a water leak somewhere, and he looked it all over and found I think it's from the surface water tables that move across there and go underneath the road, and then they did some repairs over there. I think there may be a French drain in there too, as far as helping to move that water out to Stewart Creek that's in that retention pond. So I would look at that as a retention pond, and for sure I would know how many yards of dirt are we putting out there, how many cubic feet. Therefore that translates in how much less gallons of water we're going to have in our retention pond. And so if you're close to it, you want the neighbors to be aware of that. So that's my observation.
Is that really classified as a retention pond?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what it amounts to.
Myself.
It serves for that purpose. If you look at the 500-year floodplain, no, if you ever drive through there or try to drive through there when it floods, you know what it does. It goes up to that, almost to that stop sign. And when you put more down there, you're gonna have less holding capacity before it moves out into Stewart Creek. You just can't put dirt in a low spot and expect it not to change the elevation of the drainage characteristics. And so you ought to really understand the drainage characteristics too when you do some engineering work like that, because the people doing it out there cleaning out that ditch, they just know they got their dump trucks full. They're going out there dumping it. They're going to run a grader over it and smooth it out, and you won't know what happened to you until another hurricane comes through. That's my observation.
We're putting 2,300 cubic yards of dirt in the area. It's not drastically affecting in the 500-year floodplain, and as well within the district's use that park.
When that creek area gets cleaned out, then that should really not be a problem, right?
When that gets cleaned out. Big word.
Just for information, is there any reason we can't use where Richard then used to put it at the wastewater plant? The area out there.
They need a berm there for sure.
Where they used
protect
to
them
put
from
it over
flooding.
there, that's where they always took it. I just,
Where
Curious.
Richard put it over there was outside the district's fence. I don't know the actual boundaries of the district's property over there.
I don't think anybody does.
I would not feel comfortable putting fill on that person's property.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I know that's where they always took it.
Yeah.
Did we get you authorized for everything you needed? Okay. You good?
Yes.
Okay. All right. The agreement for the provision of treated effluent to Chrysler Golf Properties.
Okay, we received a proposed amendment to our agreement for emergency services. Obviously, there have been some issues related with emergency water supply and use of the interconnect. I've spoken with EPUD's attorney. I think it needs a little bit more work before we are ready to present it to the board and recommend, your approval. So I don't think we're ready for any action today, but hopefully we'll have a document to share with you soon. So.
Okay. Okay.
Was that I'm sorry, was that the amendment to the facilities or the agreement for treated effluent?
That was the agreement for the treated effluent, but I think he did it the other one for the joint facilities. Yeah.
I apologize.
That's okay.
I got a little audio blip. The pre-serve agreement, we obviously, I think we already talked about that, and there are some remaining litigation-related items that we should probably discuss in executive session.
Okay. Okay. All right. So 6 and 7, 6 we're going to discuss in executive, 7 we're going to table. Okay. All right, number 9, review proposed operating budget for fiscal year end 9/30 of 2023.
Okay, and it was actually included in your bookkeeper report. Now, I just want to stress this is a draft. There's still some more work that needs to be done, but I wanted to kind of at least give you an idea of the direction I was going with it, definitely.
Yep.
Eliminating some of those prior accounts. What I'm looking, the information I'm looking at that I need is what utilities are we going forward with, where the location of the utilities. There's been a lot of items that have been broken down by water, sewer, joint, GRP, admin. Can we consolidate some of that? I typically I see water, sewer. Some conditions will include the regional plan, SPP, but I know we have items that are specifically for implementation.
Where are you on the report? I'm not following here.
Oh, okay, no, at the moment, I'm just kind of giving you.
She's not anywhere.
Okay.
Really, yeah, I'm not really.
There's a proposed budget.
Yeah, it's in the bookkeeper report. This is the information I'm looking to try to, get as I move forward to trying to fine tune this particular draft budget.
Yeah.
I know the items that are related to the East Plantation billing. So that's, that's one of my questions. What is specific to East Plantation, so I can keep those grouped together and isolated. So, with that said,
Keith, would it be possible for you to get together with Carol and work on that budget? Because we also have to share that with the UD. I know you guys have only been operating that plant for 2 months and a lot has happened. We do have an obligation to provide a budget under the agreement. So,
Certainly. Not a problem at all.
appreciate it.
It's 23 and 4. 22, 23, right here.
So definitely I'm looking at the water sewer revenue items. Are those projections, I mean, with keeping in mind the things that have been pointed out tonight, how is that going to affect those numbers?
Yeah.
Definitely all the payroll items are going to go away. Operations and maintenance items like maintenance and repair, chemicals, labs. I would like to see those just, if possible.
Lumped together.
Lumped together, maybe your water sewer,
Right.
and anything that's specific to East Plantation.
Yep.
That's what I would like to see. I created an account, TCEQ assessment fees. You'll see that on the towards the bottom of page 22. At the moment, I have a budget of $3,500, but I need to dig into those other TCEQ accounts, see what's actually specific to the TCEQ
Which one?
assessment. I think some of those other items are permits,
Okay.
which we can put all of that into one account, permit fees.
Okay. Yeah, I'm all for consolidating this as much as possible. Let's condense it so we're not flipping through 3 or 4 pages of
I mean, I've
stuff.
moved a lot, but again, there's still a lot more I would like to
Right.
consolidate.
Yeah. Well, I think you saw my list that I sent you. They had about, did I send it to you?
No, I haven't seen it.
Oh, I only had about 15 accounts.
Well, I will definitely,
Maybe I didn't send it to you. I thought I did, but okay. But yes, I'm all for consolidation.
Okay. So what my plan is for next month, when the budget has to be approved, I want to give you a nice clean before and after budget.
Okay.
So, this is a little bit difficult to read because there's just.
All the zeros?
Yes. So I will present you two, so you can, a clean one that you can, review and approve.
So you're gonna remove anything that is a zero, such as payroll, you're just gonna remove that from the budget completely?
Correct.
Okay.
So this last page that has capital expenses other, total capital
That one
expense.
will-
One of the things I would be doing is communicating with, your operator, your engineer, your attorney, and I'll get some clear numbers, for those type of items.
This one, these numbers aren't good.
They're very rough estimates at the
Okay.
moment.
Okay. All right. Solicit insurance proposals for October expiration. Is this a TML?
Yes, we put this on your calendar this way just as a reminder. This was always just to kind of help ensure that the insurance got renewed timely. We have had some changes, so we actually have a meeting. TML requested a meeting to go over the changes. So Taylor and I and Julie are meeting with the TML representative tomorrow morning by teams. So hopefully we'll have a proposal for you next month for your consideration. So.
All right. Number 11, resolution for use of surplus funds for sidewalk repairs in Charleston.
Okay, you have approximately $49,000 in surplus funds remaining from the acquisition of park property. Some of that is, projected capital costs, and then there are also, some lower than expected issuance costs that are always included in there as well. So the total is it's a little over, it's between $49,000 and $50,000. I understand there was some discussion last month about potentially using some of that money for sidewalk repairs. And so have this item on the agenda for your consideration tonight if you're ready to move forward with any of that work.
Yeah.
Are we getting some kind of estimate on how much it would cost?
Yeah. Taylor, did you get us, you have us a bid, didn't you, on the sidewalk repairs?
Repairs for Charleston.
I think that one was in my.
That was
my
in your
court.
bucket?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I worked with a few folks, the primary contractor that we've used for concrete work, they've been swamped here lately. So he's been, communicate with me. I think last month what we discussed was I think up to $15,000 worth of concrete work. And so what I intend to do is to coordinate with Julie prior to your next meeting and kind of give you a general idea as to what we can get done for that $15,000.
Okay.
With our concrete guy, and then we'll price out, the rest of it, but we'll work to get that one.
Okay. Okay.
Just piecemeal it, do a little at a time. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Number 12. Oh, yes.
There is a house, I guess they used to use it when they were golfing. It's on this side.
With the
of-
bathroom?
Yeah, if I
Well,
would
what
like.
used to be a bathroom?
Yeah, could that maybe be taken down for security reason?
We can probably do something.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
uncomfortable with that room when I pass by.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no problem. I know exactly where you're
Yeah.
talking. Okay. All right, number 12, security system. Okay, we talked about this last month. We gotta do something. What do we wanna do?
I had all those,
Yeah, I don't know where, it's here somewhere, but, so, Davis, I'm gonna ask you if you would explain to us, I know only one of these contractors has a cancellation clause in the, contract. If we do, for whatever reason, decide we want to cancel this contract early, are we and without looking at the contract, but are we obligated to pay the remainder of that contract normally?
Typically, if you have an early termination of a contract, there would be a penalty, a financial penalty of some kind. And that's why those, those companies want you to sign up for a fixed term.
All right.
But I have not reviewed those
The contract.
specific contracts.
Yeah, okay. All right, so we have 4 companies. Proposal from on any of them?
Which ones have the termination?
This one, ADT.
That's
I
the only
thought
one that has the
ADT was the only one that
termination.
had the,
ADT is the only one that has a termination contract.
Opposed to
But then they're also the cheapest by far.
Not really, if you look at the payment over the 3 year, here's the payment, it's over the 3 years.
and they're still the cheapest of
Yeah.
all 4, even that one.
But it's not considerable, you know.
Yeah, it's not as big a variance. Basically, what they're doing is they're charging you for the equipment over a 3-year period, where the others are
Want it
paying
up
for the
front.
equipment up front.
I would prefer one of the other 3, this is my personal opinion, because as Thomas said several times, they're going to virtual repairs and things like that. I'd rather have somebody that's here local, that if we have an issue, that can come out, or if we decide something's not working, they can come out. We make sure we have the recordings going timed for the way we want them timed, not where they're going off at certain times and not going off at other times when we need it. And we actually have someone that we can actually work with.
I agree.
But other than that, I
I'll throw
don't have a
one other
preference.
kink in this thing to give you some other thoughts. My concern, that's, roughly, you're spending $7,000.
8,000.
Yeah, $70,000. We're liquidating most of our assets that can be moved, except for ponds out here, within the next week or two. You could do a DIY for under $1,500. Now, you may have to work it yourself. I'm talking about like a simple or whatever.
Right, simply say.
The ones that, they take about 10, 15 minutes. You put in your cameras, you put in the things, and the whole thing works, and you've spent a fraction of what any of those would cost, but you don't have service.
No monitoring.
Yeah, they'll monitor it.
They will.
Simply Safe will monitor it?
Yeah, they monitor it, they'll call you, they'll do the whole thing. Ring does it, Simple Safe does it. There's
For
another
how
one.
much? For how much?
It's not much, it's like $30 or so, I don't know the exact number. But I'm telling you, you could go DIY, but, you know, we could approve to spend, say, $1,500 or less or something like that, and go do our own system.
Yeah, this one doesn't
I
have
like
an
that.
alarm system.
You know, and of course, probably us have to do it.
Fine, right.
I don't
Do
think you
it,
should
right.
do that one.
Huh?
You do it.
I put the one in the CIA,
There you go. You're the expert.
took me about an hour.
I'll go.
Huh?
I'll go.
So do we have any liability if we do a DIY system?
I mean, I'm trying to think of all the things that could
Could
happen.
go wrong.
It's entirely up to you, right? I mean, I think that you should have a functional, viable system installed. I can't tell you exactly what that is, but I think it's important to, have a professional recommendation and something that you can rely on in the event that you were to have an issue of some kind. I mean, reality is very good now that people are not in regularly,
Right.
and sometimes that can be an issue. So
I would prefer to use somebody, I think, on this, like Synaptic,
Yeah.
because I think we're not here, and the people that are gonna be breaking in, even though we got rid of everything, they're gonna damage the doors, they're
That's-
gonna damage the windows. They're
Potential
gonna
there.
come in here, they're gonna rattle the walls, they're gonna tear up in here.
That's
once
that's
they
gonna
get
happen no
in.
matter what kind of system you have in here.
Yeah,
But these have door sensors, overhead sensors,
So
motion
does
sensors.
So do the
they have
DIY.
all the same,
They have the
So
same
what would it
systems.
cost us to do a DIY one?
under 1,500 probably.
1,500 plus 30 a month.
So, yeah, something like that.
It's a hell of a lot less than 8,000.
Do y'all have security on your other,
No, not really.
is that something you need? Or I guess not?
We have cameras.
And it's worth noting, if y'all want to get into too many details on the security system, I mean, there are obviously some exemptions from the public bidding statutes and, some executive session. There's a special exception for open meetings if we're starting to talk about
Yeah.
stuff that y'all think would be of
Yeah, I
interest.
don't really want to discuss this in public session, so. Can we do that in executive? And then come out and vote on it?
You can.
Okay.
If you want to approve the contract, you need to put it in open session.
Right.
I'm just saying, if you're gonna start talking about where you're putting the contacts and what's
Right.
gonna be covered and not, and,
Yeah.
what the alarm code is,
Yeah,
should probably do that in executive session.
yeah. And where
But-
we
but-
are or
but
aren't
in
gonna have
open,
it.
We can discuss whether we do the DIY or the
Correct.
corporate. I'm all for the DIY. I mean, you end up with the same result as far as I see. You get sensors and motion sensors. And if somebody breaks in, they're gonna damage things, but we'll still know about it in the same amount of time, whether it's a DIY or if it's a more expensive one. And I'm all for saving money.
If you're gonna rule out ADT, I'd say the second one, because it's the next lowest one.
Yeah, I'm personally gonna rule out ADT. I don't know about anybody else, but you would go with the second one. I think that's the one.
Synaptic or whatever.
Yeah.
That's what I would think.
Well, my only concern with those guys, as I told you, is with the economy going up, the two in the middle are relatively new companies. They're young people that are trying to get started. Once the economy goes, are they gonna be able to survive over the next 3 years? Who knows? I don't know.
Get somebody
They seem
else.
like good kids.
Yeah. What do you wanna do? Make a motion or discuss it? We gotta make a
Well, if we
decision
do,
tonight,
if
because
we
we've
do, if
definitely.
we do
pushed this
DIY,
off.
who's gonna do the installation?
We-
Tom and I.
I mean, you stick the camera up there, you stick a door sensor over there, that's about it. And it's
I just say on the DYI, I just wouldn't want the board to be the one DYI.
Right.
If something goes wrong, I think the district has to look to whoever made the mistake, and I don't want it to be one of my board members that I, give advice to. I think that's where you.
I agree.
No, I agree.
You guys don't
Need some kind of guarantee or warranty on the work.
Yeah.
Need at least some third party, so there's a division there. It's in the unlikely event something goes wrong.
I like that idea, it keeps me from having to climb a ladder.
Okay, so what do we wanna do?
I make a motion that we go with Synaptic.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I oppose.
Okay. We have one opposed, what are you doing?
I'll abstain.
Okay.
You want me
So
to?
we have three fours, one against, and one abstain. Okay, so contact Synaptic.
Okay, I'll let him know.
Okay.
He calls me about once a week.
Okay. Okay. Resolution for adopting the order establishing the policy and rates for water and sewer service. Order for adoption of schedule of water and sewer service fees and rates. Our rate schedule, basically.
These are the documents starting on page 50 in your packet. This is the new service policy document. I will tell you that we have worked to incorporate your current water rates into this document, the rates for service. We've also worked to incorporate their number of kind of flat service fees that are charged to the district by your operator. And we have structured, those fees and everything around, kind of their contract as, pass-throughs with small markups in the same way that we normally do. So this document, importantly, you don't have a general manager anymore. There's a lot of old, outdated language in your prior document. I think that this document will make Keith's life a lot easier, and I'll just remind everyone that this is your kind of service policy, so we can amend it at any time. I'll also point out that if we break it up into two documents, one is your rate order and one is your rate schedule, because we like to review it on an annual basis with your operator so that we ensure that you're recovering your costs, right? So we'll basically get together with MOC on an annual basis and look at the rates that they're charging the district and the rates that we are charging to make sure that we are not, upside down on anything. So we'll put together a comparison schedule on an annual basis.
Okay. Okay. So I need a resolution adopting the rate policy and the schedule of fees.
The schedule of fees really hadn't changed, have they? There's no change.
I don't
Well,
think so.
if this is the one I read where we're creating 3 different designations of customers, is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct. We have the document set up that way, but you have one rate.
Yeah, but is there a difference in
Yeah.
rate structure between commercial, residential, or?
What you do is to, if in the future you chose to have different classes of customers,
Right.
then you would have the ability to charge different rates to those different classes of customers.
But this doesn't segregate it at this point, correct?
That's right. We are still sticking to the single rate structure for all customers that was included in your prior policy.
Okay.
But I put that language in there and drafted it that way so that, in the event that there was a change that you wanted to make, that you could do so easily.
So we could make a change at any point going forward if we want.
That's right. I mean, you can change your rates at any time. We generally recommend that you review them annually, and we would generally do it, frankly, sometime around right now, late summer, to see if there are any changes to the rates that need to be made. Obviously, we had a rate change just a few months ago.
Right.
And so this is really a policy update more than anything else. Candidly, the prior document was old and had some some language in it that should be updated. I think this is going to be a lot easier document for Keith and his personnel to work with, a form that they're probably more familiar with.
If that's the case, I'll make a motion, we accept the proposal.
Okay. Second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Can we do pending business first before we go into executive session? Because I have a couple of things that I'm gonna put under pending business that way, if they don't want to stick around, they don't stick around. I think because of some things we've seen around here, do you guys authorize me to, I've actually had a cleaning lady come in last week to clean, or actually it was this week, wasn't it? This week to clean the week of our meetings. Is everybody okay if I do that?
Yep.
Because it's getting disgusting. Okay. Second thing is, I think we need to authorize that we start contracting with an exterminator again. Is everybody okay with that?
Yep.
And I think we were using case exterminating at that time, or before. So, okay. Are we good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'm done. Oh, we need to vote, make a motion. Somebody make a motion that you're authorizing us to have a maid come in once a month before the meetings and contract with an exterminator.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Can
I
get a
second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right.
Can I
All right.
ask a question before you?
Sure.
When the court said that the land that you guys bought was developable, buildable, whatever you want to call it. Now what happens if like all you guys decide one day, we don't want to be on the board anymore, we've had enough, and we get a bunch of people in there and they decide, well, this is just useless land, why not sell it and let somebody build on it? Can that happen?
No, it can only be because we are a governmental entity. My understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys, Davis and Paul, is that it can only be used for the purpose for which it was purchased, which is a park. We cannot sell it. We cannot
Okay, so
use it
some
for anything.
yapper can't come and take your place and decide, yeah, we don't need this for a park, let's build some houses and sell it.
My understanding is no.
Oh, okay, good.
Let me say this, I don't want to say that, I hate to, the lawyer in me hates to talk in definitive terms, things right. I don't want to say that it could never be sold and nothing could ever happen. It would be very, very difficult to do anything with it in the near term. There are rights to repurchase that apply. You finance the facility with tax exempt bonds. It is not something that should be done or could easily be done anytime soon. I think is a good way to say it.
Okay.
Okay, can I ask something? What are you going to be discussing in executive session that you're going to be voting on?
That we're going to be voting on?
Yes.
I don't know or expect that there will be a vote, Dee. That we cannot take a vote in executive session.
No, I know you're taking it after. But I want to know if I should
Pending or
say.
threatened litigation.
Okay, you're discussing litigation.
Pending or threatened litigation.
Okay, so nothing else, I don't have to stay here. Okay, you sure you have it on the video?
No, not executive session, won't be on video.
I know
Oh.
that.
Oh, you mean what,
The
that we
vote,
afterwards?
If you vote,
Got it,
yes.
if we vote, yes. Okay,
Please.
okay, yes, we'll, somebody remember to turn it back on. Okay, all right, so we're going into executive session at 8:35 PM.
Back.
I am.
Killing me. I feel like I'm 100 years old. How are you doing, Mark?
Mine doesn't.